Thank you. Thank you very much, Madrin. And once again, my name is Judith Atim. I'm the head of programs at CCG, Center for Constitutional Governance, and I'll also be facilitating the last session of today's online training. I'm very happy to have you all. But before I make a few remarks, I would kindly request each of us to introduce ourselves so that we get to know exactly who is here and where you're from, each individually. Thank you. I'll just open the floor to, I don't know if I should actually just mention names, or you can just start randomly.
Good morning, everyone. I think I'll begin this. My name is Naiga Madrin. I work with Center for Constitutional Governance. So I'll be mentioning your names so that we don't do a random thing. I'll start with Apio Docas.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Apio Docas. I work with IDI, that is Infectious Disease Institute, Masaka District. Thank you.
All right. We have Dr. Charles.
Good morning, all of us.
Dr. You're muted.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm Dr. Tolly Charles Atia. I'm pleased to be here. I think I'll be joining you in a session about 11. I work as Associate Director at CCG. It's a pleasure to meet all of you and looking forward to the day's engagements.
All right, thank you so much, Doctor. We have Nelson. Nelson, please unmute and introduce yourself. Nelson Chip. I can't pronounce the other name. Okay, next is Douglas Draconen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Madrin. My name is Douglas Draconen. I work with the Center for Constitutional Governance. I coordinate. I do coordinate projects relating to the university students, but also one relating to GIZ. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
All right. Next on the list is Eunice. Eunice Echagaba, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Eunice. I work with Action for Community Development. Thank you.
All right. Frederick Echeku, please introduce yourself.
Good morning. Frederick Echeku is my name. I work with the Macquarie University School of Public Health RELABHS project. Thank you.
Thank you. Gloria Muyanda. Gloria, please unmute and introduce yourself. All right, we'll go to Henry. Henry. Kindly, when I call upon your name, please respond, unmute, and introduce yourself. Next on the list is Irene Maruga. Isaac Eset.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. I'm Isaac Esset. I work with the African Wildlife Foundation this year in Kampala. Thanks.
Thank you, Isaac. Ivan Nagava.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Ivan Agaba. I work with a public policy think tank called Youth Lens Africa. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. I have Kim Best.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Kim Best, a journalist from Kasese. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Lucky Nisima.
Good morning, team. My name is Lucky Nisima. I'm the East African Coordinator for Africans Rising Movement, and I'm joining in from Bushenyi. Good to be here.
All right. Lydia Innocent Alupo.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here. My name is Alupo Lydia Innocent, Vice President, Law Student Society, Islamic University in Kenya, Mbale campus. And I'm in my 4th year and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Innocent. We have Masawi Ivan.
Yeah, good morning. Masawi Ivan is my name. I'm an engineer from Bugisu. I work with Kopash Jatwa Enterprises. Thank you.
Mbabazi Monica.
Morning, Baba's Monica, Smart Lady Uganda.
Thank you. Melody Nakalanzi.
Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Melody Nakalanzi. I work with Mempro Uganda.
We have Mukisa Sharon.
Hello, good morning. My name is Mukisa Sharon. I am currently in my 4th year, law school, UCU, and I'm also doing my internship with CCG.
Thank you. Musana Christian.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Musana Christian. I work with Center for Youth Aid and Development, Kampala, Uganda. Thank you.
Namala Mariam.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Namara Mariam, and I'm writing my dissertation. I'm a master's student of social work, Makerere University. Thank you.
Thank you. Nai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well. Okay. We have Natasha Kaitesi, and next on the list is Nicholas Chigundu.
Good morning.
Nicholas Chigundu, please introduce yourself. All right, Omwene Moses. Please unmute and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Omwene Moses. I work with a company called Taylor Logistics and a law firm called Crimson Solicitors. Thank you.
Thank you, Moses. Pade Joel, Pade.
Pate Joel has used the chat box. He says he's joining from Mukono and works with Royal Vanzaten, Uganda.
All right. Patricia Musana.
Good morning, everyone. Masana Patricia, working with Mount May, Uganda. Thank you.
Perez Masolo. Perez. Okay, let's hear from Peter Wasukira.
Good morning, Peter William Masukira. I work with Advocacy.
Priscilla Amuge. Robert Yagatum.
Good morning, everyone. I'm called Robert Nyangatum. I work with Village Enterprise in Amuria district, that is Eastern Uganda. I'm happy to be in the training. Thank you.
Scovia Namara.
Good morning, everyone. Namara Scovia is my name. I work with the Appropriate Technology Center for Water and Sanitation in research and advocacy. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Next is Saint Teresa Francis.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sinteza Francis, and I work with Coffee Food Distributors, Uganda. Thank you.
Next is Stefan Chidavida.
Very good morning, everyone. My name is Steven Kirabira, Digital Marketing Manager, Rostino of Uganda. I'm very happy to be part of this training.
All right, and lastly is Wakoli Michael.
Yes, good morning, team. I'm Wakoli Michael. I'm joining in from sides of Eastern Uganda, Manapa as a district. I'm currently a student at Africa University, serving as a guild president and pursuing a bachelor's degree in social work. Thanks.
Where you're from. I'll hand over to thank you. Chris, as Judith gets back online, Chris, the introductions are done. I think we can begin.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hello? Yes.
You can, okay. I think Judith is back online.
Okay. Chris, thank you. We just had a little bit of a technical glitch here, but glad we're back on. Thank you very much, all of you. I am happy that we are actually having a conversation with such a diverse group. And we're looking forward to a very engaging conversation on the issues of digital rights. Once again, my name is Judy Tim. I'm the head of programs here at CCG. Very quickly, this online training on digital rights and online advocacy is one of the activities which, as CCG, we are implementing with support from Oxfam under a project called Recipe. Recipe is RECIPE, just like you hear food recipes. It's an acronym which basically stands for Recentering the Civic Internet through Partner Engagement. Of course, if you ask yourself what the civic internet is, basically the civic internet is that it's basically an evolving concept. It keeps changing, but for now we know it as just a core idea that the internet ideally should be a progressive space, not a regressive one. Progressive in a sense that it is moving forward, moving society forward. It is one that empowers citizens and strengthens democratic participation. And in this case, it means that the internet is a tool or a platform which fosters informed dialogue, community engagement, and active citizenship. And the civicness in the word civic internet is, of course, the idea that the internet should be an open and accessible space. It should be one which ensures diversity and inclusivity. So in our context, I think it is relevant to reflect on how open is our internet, or how accessible is it? Is it one that actually allows everyone to participate? Does it include everyone? And if you reflect on this, you actually realize that this is exactly the rationale for us to have this kind of project. Because if you want to expand the civic internet, then of course you have to ensure that your advocacy is robust in terms of breaking barriers that exclude some people from accessing the internet, in ensuring that the internet is actually open and everyone can freely access it and participate in it. So briefly, that's what I would say. You also understand that we are in quite an interesting time. This is 2025. It's pretty much a year that is heavy on
Am I the only one who lost Judith?
Sorry.
I think we all lost
Yeah,
her.
you lost me, but I am back. I'm back. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, we got you.
Yes,
We got you.
Hello. Yes, so basically I had actually finished what I was saying, and I'll now take this opportunity to welcome my colleague, Chris Okidi from Kampala Analytica, who will be taking us through one of the sessions, or two sessions actually, the Introduction to Digital Rights and the Online Freedom of Expression session. Later, we shall have Dr. Tolly Charles Atia, who will be taking us through online privacy and data protection, as well as online advocacy strategies. And lastly, I'll come in to talk about digital security and safety. But guys, feel free, this is an interactive session. If along the way you want, you have a comment to make, or you want to participate, please feel free, put your hands up, and you will actually be given the platform to speak. Thank you very much for listening to me. Chris, the floor is yours, or the microphone is yours. Let's hear from you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much, the team at CCG, for inviting me to share my experience and knowledge regarding these very pertinent issues. Is Rita or Madrin the one moderating? Because just for purposes of the interaction, I just want whoever is moderating to help me be checking whoever has raised their hands up, so they can give them the chance to bring certain issues to my attention.
Chris, we have both of them. We have both Madrin and Rita on standby, so feel free to just proceed. They'll bring anything else to your attention.
Yeah, and then also what I've decided to do this particular, with my two sessions, I've decided to merge them in one, so that it allows me to, because I've realized the two sessions are similar in my preparation. I've realized they're similar, and so I am going to merge them into one, so I can be able to deal with the broader issues and give more time for interaction. Yeah, so my name is Christopher Okidi from Kampala Analytica. Kampala Analytica is a think tank which, among others, provides policy, market, and civic intelligence within the present context of digital modernity. And I want to start my presentation I just want to make this presentation more of life, because and very practical examples, so that we can be in position to share experiences properly, and also locate what we are discussing within our lived experiences and realities. I look at technology and digital modernity as part of human society, human interaction, social processes. But also I look at it broadly as the continuation of man's story of civilization. When you look at the story of civilization broadly, you'll actually realize that at all stages of life, man has always been creating something to help him. When we are to look at when life started, and the most interesting thing is that man builds, or what comes in to help man happens in waves. Like currently we are talking about the fourth industrial wave, or the fourth industrial revolution, meaning there was a third industrial revolution, there was a second industrial revolution, and there was also a first industrial revolution. But forgetting all these industrial revolutions, where we can locate all our digital interactions, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and all these other aspects of digital modernity, like digital rights, the digital public sphere, the civic internet. If we are to first step back a bit and look at man's journey with technology, man's journey with development, you'll actually still realize that there were waves. And before you may have also had, I think this is something studied in primary school, where we were told about the Stone Age period. We were told where man discovered fire. Actually, many would want to call it the Neolithic Revolution, where man discovered fire. Mesolithic Revolution, where man discovered other forms of help like iron. Neolithic, Paleolithic age, where man discovered iron. So you will find that throughout the story of man has always, and when I talk about man, I mean both man and woman. I don't want to be accused of this space for gendering, gender biases. But humanity, or let me say humanity generally, that all human beings, or let us say the human race. So the human race has always been creating, has always been developing technology, whatever simple, whether it is creating iron, creating fire, doing, whether it is blacksmith, developing something, all were intended to create something that can make the life of man simpler. Fire helped us eat more processed, more cooked food recipes. Iron helped us perfect technology for hunting. So man has actually always creating something. And that has actually been the story of civilization. And as civilization continues, man will continue to create things that will actually help and support them. And that is also the same story. And that is why I say that even when we are dealing with digital modernity, we should have this trans-historical perspective that man always creates something to help. And this is so important because sometimes people approach issues around digital modernity, like digital rights, artificial intelligence, and all these other things. They want to approach it as though it is something which is very new, as if it is the first time man is face to face with his own invention. You see, but even when we are to look at currently what we are grappling with, because what we are grappling with currently is what Nicholas Schwab, gentleman behind the World Economic Forum, termed in 2016 the fourth industrial age, or the fourth industrial revolution, where robotics, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and all technologies that are empowered through all these things I have mentioned will shape human life. And this will be, whether it is agriculture, robotics, whether you like it or not, AI will be part of the agricultural sector. Already people are talking about green transition, and anybody who read this year's World Economic Forum report, actually last year's World Economic Forum report 2024, issues around green transition is actually top of the agenda. AI, in fact, the title of the report is AI or Die. You either embrace artificial intelligence or you die. And even when you followed the Paris discussion on AI, you realized from the speech of the Vice President of the United States and many other world leaders that there is now a shift in terms of perception of artificial intelligence. Why I am talking more about artificial intelligence is because artificial intelligence is the technology which is now headlining the fourth industrial revolution. And you will find that while probably 2 years ago, discussions about artificial intelligence centered around mainly issues of centered around mainly issues of safety and people painting an apocalyptic image of AI. Now the world seems to now be more receptive and looking at harnessing the opportunities of AI. At least this is something that we can discover from the recent conversations from the AI in Paris. So, but also when we are locating present technologies of the fourth industrial age, we must remember that there are antecedents. We can find also their antecedents in historical time, probably actually about 400 centuries ago. When you look at societies like Greece, maybe the first, someone could actually say that maybe probably the first idea of robotics could have actually emerged in the Greek society by what we call because they said that there was a Greek god who was called Hephaestus, who developed a humanoid. And when we talk about a humanoid, it's like a robot called Talos, with the intention to protect the Greek society from war. You see, especially the Greek city of Crete from conflict. So you can actually find that ideas such as robotics, while today we may look at them as new, they have been part of human conception when humans are thinking about what they can develop in order to help them address particular problems. In the Jewish society, it is also said that there is actually a Jewish legend of Golem, which says that there was a rabbi called Judah Law Ben Bezalel, who developed Ben Bezalel, who developed the AI or the robot called Golem, which was supposed to protect the Jews persecution. So you'll actually realize that robots have always been developed. Humanoids, the idea of humanoids is not a new idea only that we can locate it to the fourth industrial revolution. These have been ideas that human beings have always been grappling with to help them. And broadly, like I actually say, human beings have always been creating technologies for purposes of their protection and for purposes of advancing their civilization and life. And there are many examples we can talk about. I'm sure you're also familiar with stories around Leonardo da Vinci, who came up with mechanical sketches like ornithopters for flying. And then you can also relate that to modern planes and drone technologies. And then during the Renaissance period, it is also important to understand that during the Renaissance period, we had two people who, for example, decided to begin to question conventional knowledge. That was Copernicus and Galileo Galilei. And for Galileo Galilei, he lost his life because the church, particularly the Catholic Church, thought he was engaging in heresies, because these are people who challenged conventional religion, scientific knowledge, and decided to say that no, that the earth is actually around the earth. So, but then many years later, you find we are talking about data analytics, fourth industrial revolution. but the mere aspect of using science to question what was conventional wisdom then, and that period was actually referred to as observational analytics because they relied more on astronomy. Now, you can actually see that that is observational analytics. And in the fourth industrial revolution currently, we talk about data analytics. So the very idea of analytics is not a new idea. Well, it's an idea that has always been part of society. People like Galileo Galilei engaged with it. People like Copernicus and even Plato, rather Aristotle, who is actually considered father of analytics. So why I labored to bring this introduction is to underscore the fact that we have to look at technology from a sociological standpoint, that it is a part of a continuation of human civilization, the story of human civilization. And these ideas have always been part of society. Now, let me come to the gist of my interaction today. And from today, I have been asked to talk about, to give an overview of digital rights and its importance, and the importance of digital rights in this particular digital age, which I've belabored to bring us from, to try to give an abridged version of the story of civilization to bring us up to this point, so that we can now begin to discuss digital rights, its importance, what is freedom of expression, and what are then challenges to freedom of expression. Now, this is important. So when we are, let's first of all agree that we are talking about digital rights, we are talking about online freedom of expression, because civilization has brought us to a point of digital modernity. We are now, you've heard many of us say, yeah, this is a modern era, modern era. So modern era has its own ways of tools of interactions. And as society, as civilization progresses, new technologies emerge, which alters how people interact and how people engage. And so we are currently in the context of digital modernity. And now in digital modernity is where issues around because in digital modernity, actually very interesting is that human rights are very interesting. That while society changes, there is something that humanity has always been fighting for, that led there, the rights of humans. Yeah, because even in earlier times, you'll hear laws emerge, like the Hammurabi Code. The Hammurabi Code is a very interesting source of human rights for that particular age. Remember that those days human beings used to be, there was what is called lex talionis, whereby where in fact you do something, they chop off your hand. So humans have always been evolving human rights. Human rights has always been evolving, and human rights is actually a very important part of civilization. And that is why in digital modernity, even when civilization progresses to digital modernity, we talk about digital rights, because digital modernity brings completely new tools of interactions, but the question of human autonomy and rights is a story that human beings are interested in, because that is what makes humans. So digital rights refer to human rights that apply to the digital age, which includes your freedom of expression, your privacy, and access to information. Yeah, because like I said earlier on, digital tools, you're going to be using digital technologies like artificial intelligence. Does artificial intelligence advance your freedom of expression? You're using social media. Does it advance your freedom of expression? Does it advance your privacy and your access and autonomy? These are very important questions that has technology, as we continue to build and continue to open up to more advanced forms of digital tools, such as artificial intelligence, such as social media as platforms for which we interact. The question is, what about our freedom of expression? What about our privacy? And what about our access to information? Because remember that these tools can actually be instrumentalized to deny you the very freedom of expression. How? Models can be developed that can completely lock you into an echo chamber, where you access only particular information and you're denied from other information. And that affects your access to information. Now, these modern digital technologies use data, and some of them are your data. So the question is, how will your data be used without infringing on your right to privacy? For example, if you open up Google, like me right now, if I am to open Google, I am sure what Google is going to list up for me, because Google apparently now has all my information. They know where I went to school. They know what I studied. They know what I like to eat. They know which part of the country I come from. And so they can, for their marketing purposes, they can decide to always be giving me particular information based on my data that they have. Now, this is two-way. It may help me optimize what I want on the internet, but it can also deny me, those algorithms can also deny me access to new frontiers of interest and knowledge. So the question of that is now where the whole issue of echo chambers. So when we are talking about digital rights, there is no digital rights, like I said, about digital modernity. Digital modernity should be looked at from a transhistorical perspective, and so should digital rights. So digital rights are just extension. So you just need to underscore the fact that digital rights are human rights, digital sphere. So what then are these categories? Like I said earlier, your freedom of expression online. You should be able to express yourself online without any fear of retribution or censorship. You should be able to, your privacy is key. The data you render, because you're using these digital spaces, should not be used against you or should not be instrumented against you, should not be misused. And there are various forms of data misuse. For example, you've heard about people talking about digital modernity. Data is the new gold, which is true meanwhile, because talk about the richest companies in the world that are there. We call them the FANG group: Facebook, Apple, Nvidia, Google, FANG. Those are Those are the richest companies in the world. And where that all the just Google onto Facebook, you like something. Have you ever asked yourself why people are paying? Just content on social media, because that content when someone likes the content, it is a form of data collection. Right? It is like just normal research. So these companies just use your information. Like if, for example, Judith posts something, if Judith, for example, posts, I see she likes posting about KFM. So if Judith, for example, posts about KFM on her Facebook, and Okidi Christopher goes and likes, now that is already goes into a particular system that Okidi has liked this, meaning Okidi's interest is around this. So tomorrow when someone is going to be marketing something, they will look through the system and say, among the people who like this is Okidi Christopher, sell this particular product. What Oshana Zup, surveillance, capitalism. Now, so these are so the question then is, when you render your information to digital spaces, they should not harm you. It should not be misused. Because one of the things that we are, in fact, let me talk briefly about what surveillance capitalism. Now, and that is where issues around privacy rights, that's where in terms of political economy, there's a lot of discussions around human rights, because people are saying that with the digital modernity, unlike industrial capitalism, the ones that people like Karl Marx talked about, and these other people prior talked about, that where the factors of production is land, what else, labor, what else, capital. I think those were the factors of production we used to talk about. But now they're saying that with the digital modernity, the factors of production may be us ourselves and the information we render into the digital spaces. Because data then becomes the form, data is actually capital upon which is used to fuel and run the digital economy. So such a kind of landscape brings issues around data, brings concerns around data privacy, brings a lot of worries, But the gist of digital rights is that your information should not be misused. The information you render should not be misused. And these are still big conversations that people are having in terms of how then do we get justice around data misuse when you're contending with big technological companies. But as we progress, solutions will be found. But for now, what you need to do as a human rights defender is to ensure that you use self-help processes, self-help programs to ensure that defend your digital space as we wait for policies to crystallize. Some of them, of course, I think later on will be discussed in other sessions, but some of them include the use of softwares like VPN, protect you. You've heard about, there was a time in Uganda where there was a very popular Tom Voltaire who would put government counterhooks, but no one would find him. And yet he gave real-time information about what was happening, including even within spaces, serious spaces of government where people thought it was so protected. But these are people who used very advanced technologies, encryption technologies, to protect themselves. There are also, you also have rights to access to information within the digital space. I talked about that earlier on. Your security, You shouldn't be threatened online. Freedom from online threats, such as cyber attacks, hacking, and identity theft. Then also non-discrimination. So because equality in the digital modernity also means equality in terms of access and use, non-discrimination, regardless of race, gender, and disability. So you realize that these principles are the same human rights principles. When you look at Uganda's constitutional framework, especially Chapter 4 Constitution, you'll find articles from 20 onwards, which talks about freedom of expression. I think at 29 and around 20 or 22 there, find non-discrimination principles. So, for example, digital spaces can actually be used to perpetuate discrimination. Where, for example, if your information, like for example, if you went and said, give me a picture of a very handsome man on Nairobi street, and then they get for you a Muzungu, isn't that racism already? That these AI algorithms are trying to perpetuate racism. And that's why people require more algorithm transparency, algorithm governance, so that they always align public policy around non-discrimination, security, access for information, freedom, expression. Now, digital sphere itself, how much time do I still have, Rita?
I think should be summarizing because this engagement is supposed to be for 3 hours.
Okay. Yeah, it is okay. Let me be summarizing. Let me talk about issues around digital rights. I've already talked about corporate surveillance, government surveillance, where government, for example, is always trying to follow what the form of citizen engagements, what citizens are saying, see? And I'm sure this is a protected space. We have Israeli technologies in Uganda, not only in Uganda. I'm told there's already Israeli technology that is helping surveil citizens across the region. This happens even in Rwanda, in Uganda, in South Sudan. Yeah, so there's citizen surveillance. So these are digital rights issues, and these are issues of advocacy. That if we are talking about digital modernity, we need to ensure that we scale up our advocacy against issues around citizen surveillance. There's also corporate surveillance. And for corporate surveillance, all they want to know is your information so that they can use it for profit. And when you talk about profit and equal access to data and information, also creates market inequities, which therefore rolls back on market democracy. There's forms citizen censorship, internet shutdowns, and then issues around digital divide, digital technologies, inequality in terms of digital access. We already know that when you follow World Bank report, World Bank, you'll actually find that Uganda's internet penetration is just at 24%. That's the country's internet penetration. And this is even further compounded by energy access. And I don't recall quite well, but in terms of energy access, our country is also affected so much. If you read reports of the International Atomic Energy Agencies, there is online harassment, a lot of online harassment, intimidation. There are people who are always, mental health issues, you know, and no one seems to be talking about them. So these are some of the issues that we need to look at when we. Yeah. So the question, therefore, is advocacy needs to be scaled up around protection of freedom of expression online, preservation of privacy of individuals. These are key advocacy issues and points that, as human rights defenders, we need to take seriously. And then also promotion of access of information in this age of digital modernity, prevention of digital discrimination, protection of online harassment, empowerment of marginalized communities, supporting digital literacy so that we address address issues of access. Yeah, and then also generally promoting digital governance. And then we have to, by doing this, we shall be promoting democracy, promoting a free world. We imagine a world where we have all these technologies working for us for good, integrating it into our various spheres of life without any fear of their harm. Me, I think that is what underscores. So when you're discussing freedom, digital rights generally, there are legal frameworks that you should always have at the back of your mind. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights still applies. The principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and their importation into digital modernity still applies. The International Covenant on Civil Political Rights and ECOSOC all applies. Various UN resolutions and our constitutional frameworks, like I have demonstrated, the right to freedom of expression, the rights to non-discrimination. So all these legal principles still applies when it comes to digital rights and freedom of expression. So all in all, we just need to ensure that we scale up on our advocacy, and when we avoid situations where we think that this is completely something new that we cannot draw on old knowledge. In any case, when we talk about human rights, digital rights, we are still talking about human rights. So this should actually be looked at as part of the continuum of human rights, hence fighting for the promotion of human rights. And as I have said earlier on, human rights is part of human civilization. In fact, one of the markers of human civilization is human rights. So human rights need to evolve together with human civilization. And if it is the digital modernity we are dealing with, then it is human rights within the context of digital modernity. Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you everyone for listening. If there are some questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kidi, for that presentation. Is there any question from the audience? If maybe there's some addition to what Chris has submitted, kindly you bring it forward. If there is no reaction to Mr. Kidi's submission, because of time, let's go to another facilitator, who is none other than Dr. Tolit Charles. Kindly take us through your session.
There is a hand
And I
by
would
Lydia
implore
Innocent Alupo.
facilitators.
There is a hand by Lydia Innocent
Alupo,
Alupo.
yes, Alupo.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Christopher.
Alupo.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Christopher. My question is that I wanted to understand how can I distinguish between the digital rights and the online advocacy, because you talked about digital modernity. So I wanted to understand it more. Thank you.
Simon, did you get Alupo's question? I think I didn't get her. If you got her question, maybe if you can summarize for me, because I didn't hear her well.
If I may, Chris,
Mm.
what Alupo was asking, that you had different shades between digital rights and online advocacy. I think that's what I heard. She just wants to get that differentiator. What is the difference between what digital rights mean, and how is it different from digital advocacy?
Okay. Yeah, definitely those are two different things. Because digital rights, like we said, are human rights. Yeah, digital rights, like we said, are human rights that within the digital sphere. Now, like me as Okidi, I have rights such as freedom of expression on the internet or digital sphere. I have rights, I have privacy rights. I have rights that I shouldn't be discriminated on in terms when I am engaging on this particular subject. While digital advocacy again refers to the use of digital technologies to promote social, political, and other causes. So advocacy is cause-based. That when you have a particular cause, for example, an environmental cause. I have a cause to save Zoka Forest. Let me use Zoka Forest example that I always see Solomon Serwanja engage in. So, for example, he is using Zoka Forest. Now, that is his cause. His cause is the protection of Zoka Forest. And if he's using digital technologies and digital tools such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter to promote that cause, that is then what we call digital advocacy. So while digital advocacy now applies when you're using digital tools and digital technologies to promote a particular cause, while digital rights are human rights that accrue to you in the digital sphere. But you realize that the two at some point intersect. That while promoting your digital advocacy or digital causes, digital rights still apply to you. Shouldn't be discriminated. Your freedom of expression should be allowed. I hope that answers the question, Alupo.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Chris, there's another question from Isaac Esset. He's interested in finding out what are the limits of freedom of speech online. If you could, within 30 seconds, respond to that.
Question. For now, of course, as new technologies evolve, first of all, let us start from the point that there are rights, obligations. There are rights, there are freedoms and duties. First of all, you have a duty. There are limitations, for example. And I think that is very interesting because I think another segment of my second presentation was supposed to be tackling issues around hate speech, issues around disinformation. Yeah. So one thing is that when you're using digital technologies, you're supposed to use them in a way that they do not infringe on others' freedoms. That, in fact, that is the rule of thumb when talking about human rights and digital rights. You may be following in Kenya, there is a case against Facebook that Kenya has come up with over Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, there has been conflict in Ethiopia, and then Facebook technologies, Facebook was actually being used to promote hate speech. In fact, people are suing Facebook and they need reparation for Ethiopia, and Kenyans are leading this particular cause. There are even people who are talking to ICJ to get advisory opinion on hate speech from the ICJ. This all depends on the rule of thumb, which human rights generally imposes, that in accessing and enjoying your freedoms, you should not infringe on other people's freedoms. And this is going to be the same rule that you're going to find it dealing with issues such as cyberbullying, disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, and all these other forms. And has discussions around information integrity evolves, this is eventually where we are going to go to. And like I said, human rights, principles of human rights are actually principles that are actually the same principles being transported on the internet. I hope that answers the question. Isaac. Simon.
Sorry, Chris.
Yes. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Sure, I'm satisfied with the response.
Over to you, but I thank you, Isaac, because that question also allowed me touch on the aspect of hate speech, which is actually a very strong issue evolving in the East African context, especially that East Africa has taken the lead to sue Facebook over the issues around hate speech in Ethiopia. So over to you, Simon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yes, thank you very much, Chris. If there are other questions, because of time, we should kindly note down and then at once. As for now, let's bring in another facilitator, who is Dr. Charles Tolit, to take us to another session. Dr. Tolit.
Doctor, please unmute, and maybe before Doctor starts, there is a message from Simon Kadapau in the chat box. Please look through and fill that form. Thank you so much. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you. I hope I'm now audible. Very
yes,
good.
Doctor, you're allowed. Kindly.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. It's still morning, so I will say a very good morning to the audience. As stated, I'm Tolit Charles Atia. My background is law and research, particularly in political economy and public interest law. So the subjects that I'm asked to look at, which is online privacy and data protection, is pretty much something that we are fairly familiar with in public interest law. I would like to start by congratulating Mr. Okidi Christopher for his very able presentation and the dig deep into civilization or history of civilization and how things shape up. You know, there was this French journalist, Jean Laroche, who says the more things get different or look different, the more it becomes the same. So from that presentation of Chris, you'll clearly see that the conversations or nomenclature that is being deployed today in relation to the fourth, and now some people are daring talk about the fifth industrial phase, make it seem like there is something new that has just dropped amid the stars. But that illustrious conversation of Chris shows you that it is just literally the same thing, but manifest in many, many forms. And maybe the context is the question of time and age. Without risking the challenge of sounding a very lone speaker, which I'm not used to, because as a lecturer also, I'm used to seeing faces. I just want to have a sense of the room. From the introductions, there was somebody around Mbale. I don't know whether it's still online. I want to find out from that person. There's that person from Mbale or Eastern? This question is for somebody from the Eastern. Please volunteer. What is your sense of, you know, privacy, internet privacy, online privacy? What do you understand it to be? And what could be the, do you look at it as an enabler, or you think it defranchises somebody? Using the context that Christopher was talking about, that we came from this, there have been attempts in all these ages, and now we are here. But the constant is that it's the same society we're talking about. Man is only thriving to make himself better. Can somebody volunteer? Unmute and talk. Yes?
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Charles. I think you respond to your question. I think that with this, you talked about privacy. I think one, it is everyone has a right to privacy of information, and everyone that is on this digital modernity should be protected, and we should avoid things like defamation. We should avoid things like where someone's reputation is lost. So I think privacy is very key, and one of the mandatory steps we can take to control all this hate speech that Mr. Okidi talked about. Yeah, that's what I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like you say, the key words there remain. Everybody has a right. And I want you to keep that, because this is a kind of highway. You know, look, for instance, for those who drive, there is something called, you know, the highway code. And basically, like for us who drive in Uganda, you know that once you start the car and once you're in the car, you're driving both your car, you're driving the car in your front and you're driving the car in the back. And they're enablers. And the enabler for you is the mirrors. So you're either looking through the central mirror in the car or you're using the side mirrors. When you're coming to a turn, you should be able to indicate using the indicator lights that I'm going to turn left. And not so much to please yourself or please anybody, but just to warn whoever could be having intentions of going the same direction to avoid a collision. When you're driving through a busy center, you are advised to slow down. And again, not that anybody is angry that you're driving your Porsche car, but they're just reminding you that be mindful. There could be people using the same intersection, but probably they are using other means of transport. They are walking, they are cyclists, they are on bicycles, you know. So the point here is that there are cautions. So in this whole field of online privacy, data protection, you find that from what we have learned in Chris's presentation is that privacy or freedoms that are related to person, because privacy here, you're talking about an individual. So you as an individual in this internet highway, what are your rights once using that highway? What are your responsibilities while using that highway? And once there, what actually happens? So it is almost similar that you are depositing information on this highway, or you are collecting information on this highway. The importance of this highway has been demonstrated by taking us through a journey of evolutions of technology. And we have come to a point where this superhighway, as we know it, is now the, you know, the WWW age. So every time you're looking for information, instead of walking to a library, you can now just go and click. But as you click, you find that it is interactive. You are you are asking, but you are also depositing in the process. And you keep doing this, and over time, you find that it has accumulated. Sometimes you can't believe it. I was a couple of days ago, I was being reminded by, I think, Gmail, that my email is full. I don't know, ordinarily, I don't know how you can explain that to a lay person. That their email is full, but something. But for how long have I used the mail? I am far older than 21 years. So that means I started using it, you know, probably just a decade or so ago. So that tells you that certainly something has been deposited. So just imagine that I have responded to each of these mails That means I have also been typing 21,000 times. So imagine the information I have left, the trail of information I've left. Now that is what forms what we now refer to as data. And I will concentrate a little more on the question of data because Chris has ably discussed the issue of privacy, online privacy. So as a player on this highway, and I just must put a rider here. I think the internet is here to stay, like Okidi again pointed out with AI. The conversation a year or two ago was one about the unknown, you know, the fear of AI. Oh, AI is gonna take jobs, AI is gonna do this, AI is going, you know, everybody thought AI was going to render almost everybody useless. But it has turned out to be that it's not the case. Instead, AI, in this case, can be used as an enabler. But just like there is advantages to everything, there are disadvantages. Now, when you are talking about data, cumulative data, what we are now seeing happening is that there is nothing wrong with data being accumulated. And sometimes we actually voluntarily give data. There is maybe at this juncture, there is somebody who said she was a student and writing a master's dissertation. There is that letter you write when you are just about to go out to collect data. Can I have that person respond if that person is still online? What is that letter and what is the purpose of that letter?
Hello. Yes, I'm Namara Mariam.
Yes.
I'm Makerere University.
Yes.
Student of social work. And that letter is called an intent. Like you inform the department early that you're about to go to the field. So, and then you submit your dissertation for check through and they see, or you submit your proposal, be read through. And then also both your supervisors have to sign to make sure that it is ready to go and correct data. So you write to the office of the head of department, informing them you're ready to go and collect data. Most of the times these days we write a letter and then they reply to you and give you a letter that allows you to go to the field. Thank you very much.
Now, Namara, just before you go, in that letter, you are required to show how you are going to collect this data, isn't it?
Yes, please.
So what are the key things?
Going to use.
I just want the ethical bit.
Yes. The ethical bit is you inform and tell the department the topic you're going to do, the methods you're going to use, and the ethical part is that you're being given permission to go on and carry on the research. And the permission is got from the school or from the university. They're the ones that give you permission to go and get the data. That letter that you present to the communities to show that indeed I'm a student, I'm not from somewhere else. Something that identifies you. Yes.
But there's also a line or two where you indicate that the information you are collecting will only be used for the purpose of that study. Isn't it true?
Yes, very true. It will be only used for study purposes.
It is important to have that line there.
For confidentiality, make sure that the information will not be disclosed to anyone else. So it gives the participants the confidence and the privacy that the information will not be given to everyone. It will only be used for study purposes.
So I Thank you very much, Namara. The reason why I bring in that is that she uses two keywords there. The word study purpose and the word privacy. Because at any stage, we are all wary about the information we give, isn't it? But eventually, you find out that with the endless times we go on the internet, we actually give out information. And sometimes we are giving out information without even paying attention to whether or for what and why this information that is being collected will be used for. One of the key characteristics of access to pages, if you're to lend this to the issue of rights, you'll find that you'll have to give personal data. It will always be biodata. You're talking about your particulars, you're talking about your profession, you're talking about your age, So what has become worrying over time is that this cumulative data is now forming what we are calling big data. Now, the challenge of big data in the world today, particularly in the lens of political economy and the evolving world of capitalism, is that it begins to pose risk. And what kind of risk does it begin to pose? That over time, it makes it easy, for or scientific programs like algorithm to conduct probably a rapid survey, a quick survey, or a quick biocheck. And I think, again, Okidi talked about this. So you find that you are literally here in one other form. Certain centers of the world can quickly generate your profile. And this is being used sometimes. And now this is the quarrel. Sometimes you get unsolicited marketing information. I don't know. I have sometimes got say calls from people who are selling property in Dubai, and somebody is interesting me into buying a villa, a riverside villa in Dubai. And I just laugh it off my head, and I'm like, really? Can I afford a riverside villa in Dubai? But you find that because it's because I have deposited information relating to my finances. Yes, I know I have been to Dubai severally, and you find that as you visit, they're asking you, what is they may not say exactly what your salary is, but they might be asking your estimated expenditure in a month and things like that. So we are voluntarily giving a lot of information. Now, that shouldn't exactly be the problem, because that is the rule of the game in that sphere. The challenge, though, is that this information is cheap to store, which makes data accessible online for very long periods of time. The same data shared can be fast distributed, enabling data to easily proliferate, and many times done without you being asked. Internet search tools can recognize images, can recognize faces, can recognize sound, voice, and all this. So with this cumulative data, it is so easy to, to profile you. I just need to pull up a lot of pieces from here and there, and I'm able to say, this is Christopher Okidi, because once I say, a Ugandan lawyer, I type in Analytica and things like this, and it's there. So be as it is, we now have this animal, we have this digital highway that we are all participants in. We have this digital highway that is here for a while. It's not going anywhere soon. So now you begin to ask yourself, the regulations that are available, the regulations that are available, can they protect us enough? Because this is now being used in public service. This is now being used in marketing. This is being used in schools. This is being used in, job interviews, profiling you as a candidate, and all that. So this creates arguably a lot of fear in an individual, and probably could make it very challenging to continue working in this space. But the most important thing, again, like Chris had pointed out, that this is not a new animal. The only difference between this animal, this digital world, or the civic space, the civic internet space, or the civic society, and the analog society, was that in the analog, we remained a society, with rules, with regulations, with values, with philosophies. The same language and conversation is now carried into this space. The only difference here is that now this space is virtual, right? This space is virtual, and therefore, we only need, like they say in the civic world, we need to borrow and take off the good in the other world and use it in this world. Because in this world, we are still able to meet, just like in your little village in the community, you are still able to meet. When you meet, you start by greetings. When you meet, you should be cautious. What are you saying to the next person? When you meet, what are the conversations you're holding? So in the light of growing democracies, in the light of good governance, in the light of civic living, the rules, regulations remain the same. There are local there are those that are local, there are those that are international, and there are those that are shaped within the context, where whether it's a corporate, what is corporate communication, what is individual communication, and all this. So I don't want to sound repetitive. I am just trying to create an abstract that should clearly give us a picture of what we are talking about. The only key challenges that probably I just want to highlight before I conclude that segment is that we are now faced, the other thing that we are faced with that is a bit challenging is this element of, the corporates of the world, the government, because this data now goes into public policy domain. For instance, look at, say, the data you volunteer to maybe get a national identity card. The question for you then is that, okay, as an individual, you have the right to privacy because the law is there within the Ugandan laws. There are statutes that promote and preserve the privacy of an individual, information about health, information about sickness. So the question is then collectively, how how do we ensure that the information we have shared or continue to share is then not misused? I think that is the area of debate. And there has been some movements in that direction, because the truth of the matter is that the existing regulatory environment and privacy practices, which are in common use, are not sufficient to address the risks associated with long-term and large-scale data activities. But again, it's not rocket science, as you've seen from the evolution. It's the same principles of ethics. That's why I was asking our friend who is doing research, that because there are some ethical questions you must seek to answer or put in practice if you're going to. This should then allow people to be able either to open up to you and participate and be active respondents for your research, or it will cause fear in them, because if you cannot give them assurances. So this is the same questions we are seeking in this public space. We are saying, yes, it involves sharing information and we are going to share this. But what is the safety, of this information? So, and true again, that with cumulative collection of data, the risks multiply. And probably that is why now it becomes, an issue of conversation, from private to community to society. That's why now we're talking about internet governance, So again, it's not very different from what normative governance is. What are the principles of good governance? We're saying that if I'm interacting with you, I should have the opportunity I should have a right of say. I should have a right of reply. When you injure me, you publicly injure me, I should have a right of reply. If you're a journalist and you're seeking information from me, or you want to say something about me, the rule of objectivity demands that you find my side of the story before you tell the story, So in really a nutshell, not very much changes in the two worlds. It's basically the form. For every right, there is a responsibility. Then the other thing that changes is also maybe the language, the nomenclature, because since this is a digital space, you should be able to speak in the language that is recognizable, and that's why when you're talking about, say, theft or theft or vandalism, or just look at any example in the normal world, it is there. But here it will come as like, they'll talk about malware, they will talk about chat boots, so we talk about government agencies, spying agencies, in the physical world, we can identify them. In this space, it's the same, they are there, but who are they? How do they're basically the spy software. So it calls for you to be an active, relevant, and you need to learn, you need to know the terrain, you need to know the values, you need to understand the principles before you can participate. And I'll just say something very briefly about advocacy and then maybe entertain a few questions. Same thing, we know that advocacy is an attempt to systematically and in a coordinated manner make a demand for an issue, particular issue. So again, you must know your issue. Then you should be able to scan the environment. So now, on an internet interface, How do you do that? It's the same thing. They are stakeholders. Again, not going far. If I'm talking, just like Okidi pointed out, if you're talking about doing a campaign to protect a particular forest, you need to ask yourself, when you talk about forestry in Uganda, who are the stakeholders? You know, there's National Forest Authority. It would be important to know what is National Forest Authority saying about this. You'll find that you go to Parliament, there is a committee on natural resource and all that. What are they saying? What are other people saying? You know, if I want allies, who else is working to promote forests? Who do I build alliances with? What are the facts? Where can I check the facts? So by and by, the rules of the game don't change. It is only the form that has changed. So we should be able to be practical, you know. We should be able to be active and practical on the internet society. And I think it gives us an additional opportunity to be able to engage, because unlike situations where you are going to have, you know, protests, and you're going head on with the police to clamp you down and all that, you can organize internet protests. You know, you can create images. One good example we have seen on agitation here has been we have seen a number of civil society organizations engaged in so many different things. You know, just yesterday at CCG here, we had a coalition of civil society and the Uganda Women Movement, and we sent out a brief on our demands in the current situation of Dr. Besigye incarceration in view of the judgment of the Supreme Court, and much of the activity was actually accentuated through the net. You know, the pictures went out in time. The groups met to agree on the message they wanted to pass. The text was jointly done, you know. So the same ideas in advocacy. And then probably knowing your technology, because you can put signposts on the net. You can put banners on the net. You know, you can do a survey on the net. You can do a rapid assessment on the net. So it's a big plus. Maybe basically for purposes of additional references closely related to the internet governance, internet society. You could look at the Internet Society privacy resources. You can also look at Internet Society digital footprint resources. You can look at understanding your online identity. You can look at understanding your, you can also look at, online identity in relation to learning to protect yourself, online identity in line to protecting your privacy. So all these are available. I really hope that it has been a bit fast and it has been a mouthful, but I hope that those are my thoughts, and I hope that they are fairly useful. Maybe just to add is that this is a society, like I said, so they are both good players and bad players. So as a user you really need to be mindful. And then again, as you have rights, you need to recall that you have responsibilities. And that is why I started from the basic idea of driving on the highway and the highway code. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Charles, for that elaborate explanation on the overview. I mean, on online privacy and data protection, and also taking us through the advocacy strategies to ensure that we are safe on social media and online in general. Just a quick one before you proceed to another key issue. There is an issue from Nicholas Kigundu. He wants to find out from you that there are instances where government agencies deny us access to information when doing research and digital rights in that spaces. Can you kindly elaborate on how we can address such anomalies?
No, thanks for that question. I will just quickly say that the government ought to share information. And I think there was a bit of an attempt for Uganda to move to a Public Information Act. But I think we are not yet there yet. But like any researcher, there are also research skills. Sometimes you might need information, you might ask for it, you may not get it directly from a particular government agency or department. You can find, what you then need to do is probably look for the information elsewhere, either through desk review or through university publications or whatever publications. Then you only go back to confirm. You now confront the person with the information and say, this is the information I have. Can you confirm? Or, and whether the person says it is true or I deny, that is a comment. And that is, you would have at least achieved what they call right of reply. And you can go ahead and publish that information with that kind of quote. I hope that answers him.
Very much, Charles, for the discussion. But there's another hand from Kigundu. Kindly, Kigundu, unmute and raise your concern. Yes, Kigundu, I saw your hand up. Is there anything that you need to add?
Simon, if as we wait for Chigundu, I also see two hands up, Ivan Agaba. There's also Omwene Moses. We need to, maybe as we wait for Chigundu to return, you could give room to one of these two gentlemen. Perhaps Ivan Agaba could speak, and then Moses.
Let's give room.
Yes. Thank you very much, Judith. Kindly confirm if I can be heard clearly.
You're loud and clear, Ivan.
Yes, wonderful. So I would like to thank CCG and the presenters for having shared their 2 cents on the topic for discussion today. I really appreciate their insight. And I waited till the very end to share my own 2 cents because I've not listened to a tech pessimism point of view from either of the 2 presenters or the 2 discussants. And I feel like we lose something whenever we keep, I don't want to call it our echo chamber, but whenever we only keep to the optimism bit of of the internet, of the online digital advocacy space, and even AI, like Okidi espoused, I think, very explicitly. Now, what I would love to say before I deflate the balloon of optimism is this, that, you know, there has always been a story of adopters versus originators. And they always say that it's not just about whoever invented something or where it was invented, but it's about also ultimately who gets to use it and what business models that they say apply when they do. For example, there's always been a story about the Germans, because it's the Germans that invented the printing press. But you realize that it was the Dutch and the English who built most printing presses with German technology, and they actually printed more books than the Germans did. So usually the originators of anything, in this case, say AI, are very good, but it's adopters of these new technologies that usually benefit even more. Now, and I think they benefit more because the benefiting is a factor of very many things. Like Doctor has alluded to, the regulation, the governance. So it's a factor of very many things, and even goodwill by the leadership of countries, especially those of us in the third world. So adopters usually become the biggest winners. That's the point I'm trying to put across. Now, to look at it from the other side of the coin, the tech pessimism side of the coin, I think I had someone talk about World Economic Forum, where I listened to, I think, a particular discussion about AI and the intelligent age. And this gentleman talked about it this way. He said that when we look at issues AI, largely world over, we have an aspect of the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. So the known unknowns being things that we are aware we don't know, and the unknown unknowns being things that we aren't aware that we don't know, which makes them harder to prepare for. So AI has been democratized again and even been made cheaper by the Chinese with their recent foster child, DeepSeek. And you really would want to say AI is now a known unknown to a certain percentage, but we still have a portion of AI that we do not know and are not aware of, and it has still, in a way, impeded our preparation for its use and the possible impact that it may have. Now, lastly, very, very lastly, again, from a tech pessimism point of view, is the issue of AI and propaganda. It must have been a gentleman from the Communist Party of China that said that every time, I think he said that every time humanity is faced with the unraveling of a new form of communication technology, just like, say, AI, we usually face the same assumption. The assumption being that the more a human being is exposed to more and more information and more opinions available to that person, like AI is doing, the more educated that person will become and the better decisions that person will make. Now, and this has been the assumption that has been used from the printing press to the radio, to TV, to the internet, to social media, and now to AI. But guess what? This assumption has almost always been proven wrong. That provided limitless access to very credible information, human beings will always make what? Stupid choices. And so it is why countries like China, like Russia, like Taiwan, like Singapore, have no such a thing as media freedom per se, because the propaganda aspect that comes with AI I don't know, from a political economy point of view, stands so core to the foundation of statecraft, and they are still so reluctant, China in particular, on democratizing the use of AI, even when they are financing these companies that are making AI models better than and cheaper than the US. Thank you so much for this conversation. I'm glad I've learned so much. I would beg to submit.
Yes, thank you very much, Ivan, for that insight. But of course, we're all aware that the topic on digital rights is a very, very wide topic that we should really put into different segments to understand it very well. Maybe I would like to bring one of the facilitators, either Judith or Dr. to quickly, just within 10 minutes, to react to Ivan's submission before we can bring Moses and hear from him. Judith, are you there to quickly, just within 10 seconds, react to Ivan's submission?
Thank you. Thank you, Ivan. I think you said quite a lot, but what I picked, I think what stood out for me was you were challenging Chris's earlier submission about new technologies, and you said it is the adopters that actually make the most out of it. And I don't know if you're a pessimist about technology. I think the general thinking here is that technology is evolving, just like Chris said, like Dr. Charles also said, it's evolving. There are also technologies that are emerging. We are learning with and from these technologies. And for me, I still believe in being optimistic, because when you look at generative AI, for instance, yes, it is something that it's an import from the West. But it certainly presents lots of opportunities for the global South to also learn and develop technologies or tools that are context specific. Because also when you look at what the AI technologies or tools that we have, they don't really speak to our context a lot. So for me, I see opportunities really in whatever form of technology that emerges. The most important thing is, what do you learn from it? And how do you make it better to address your challenges within a particular community? If it's Uganda, if it's Africa, how do we adapt these technologies to suit and address our issues here? I think that's briefly what I would actually, that's a brief response I could give. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, thank you very much, Judith, for putting it more elaborate. And I also saw Moses' hand. I don't know whether he's still on, but I want to submit something. Moses, if you are there, kindly unmute and submit before we proceed, just in 10 seconds. Yeah, I think it's not.
Can I respond to Ivan if there's some time?
Yeah, well, we are trying to really work on time, but if you can just respond within just 10 seconds, because we still have some few areas to cover. And I see according to the time, yeah, just within 10 seconds.
Yeah, Ivan, I underscored in my presentation that the world is now shifting away from pessimism. You noticed when ChatGPT just came in, the conversation was around, people were actually talking so much about the dangers and so much safety issues. But now the conversation is, how can we harness this technology? Because people have realized that this technology, no one is actually going to stop technology. Technology is going to continue. And the world also learns from earlier experiences. In the first industrial revolution, there is a gentleman called Lightwood who, when spinning machines came, he mobilized textile workers to demonstrate against spinning machines because, according to him, they will lose jobs. Textile workers will lose jobs. And so he formed what was called the Luddites movement. But centuries after, we are now talking about the fourth industrial revolution. In fact, people are saying in the next 3-5 years, this is the fifth industrial revolution coming in with quantum computing. So pessimism is not the first time. So people who are pessimistic about artificial intelligence and these 4IR technologies should understand that pessimism has been part of society. But where are the pessimists, if we are to ask? Has Ned Ludd stopped textile industries? Did he stop mechanization? If he stopped it, why then are we the fifth industrial revolution? So the issue here is, much as we are concerned, and the fact that we are concerned about issues of surveillance, privacy, democratic rollbacks, or the aspects of democracy that will be affected by artificial intelligence, is itself saying that we are alive to the challenges these technologies poses. But the fact that these technologies have to move on, we need to find ways of aligning them with society values, and these values such as rights, democracy, but harness the value of that technology to advance human civilization and our part of life and social processes. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Good, for that elaborate addition. And because of time at this juncture, let me call upon Judith to kindly take us through another session.
Thank you very much, Simon. And also thank you to my colleagues, Chris Okidi and Dr. Charles Tolitatia, for their in-depth and presentations and facilitation. It's been quite an opportunity for learning for me as well. And it's also quite difficult to speak after such accomplished people have spoken, but I'll do my very best. My topic is actually very, very easy. It's an area that we all know anyway, but like we say, the landscape keeps changing, and it's always important to remind ourselves of these small things that we think we know or we already know, but a lot of times we tend to just let them slide. We don't pay as much attention because we are in comfortable spaces. But when we have opportunities such as this to reflect on this, it also helps us to reflect, identify what gaps we're having in our engagements with technology individually and also as organizations. And then we remind ourselves to actually get better. I have about 40 minutes or so, but I would like to take you through what I am going to talk about. We're going to have an overview of digital security and safety. We shall also talk about online threats. We shall talk about digital security and look at the best practices that we can adopt. We shall also talk a little bit about how we can plan safety planning for us as online activists. And then later, I'll give you guys an opportunity to, of course, analyze some real life cases of digital security breaches, share your experiences, of course, what you've gone through and the lessons you've learned and how you want to actually, how you hope to do better. So, of course, when we talk about digital security or digital safety, we are basically talking about how to protect ourselves and how to protect your data or my data, in the digital space. In the physical space, we take care. We lock our bags when we're moving. We lock our doors when we leave the house. We lock our gates when we leave home. And also when we go back, we lock our gates, lock our windows, lock our doors, and sleep. So we just have to carry the same discipline or the same keenness when we are interacting in the digital space. When we talk about digital security, of course, we're focusing on, again, the technical aspects of protecting data, including things that you do every day, strong passwords. I know we talk about strong passwords, But many times, we all know the kind of habits we have. You're going to have one password which you use on all your social media platforms, on your email and so on, which puts you at a very big risk, of course. If someone hacks into one account, then chances are they're going to hack into all your accounts and have access to limitless information about you. So it's also important that when you have strong passwords, but also try to vary your passwords when you're using different digital platforms that you access. Digital security also entails things like antivirus software. How often do you update your antivirus on your laptops or your desktop computers or whatever gadgets you use? Because if you're not doing so, then you have to bear in mind that you're opening yourself up for so many risks, because this antivirus helps to, of course, detect and remove malicious software. So if you don't have it, you're basically exposing yourself to lots and lots of harm out there. Firewalls, how strong are your firewalls? Are your computers easily attacked or easy to hack by a third party? Again, when you're talking about digital security, you have to be mindful about this. Again, sometimes because we are lay people, we think these are things that only people with IT knowledge should be concerned about, but these are our gadgets. These are the digital spaces that we individually and as organizations interact with. So it's important to not just leave it to the IT person, but to also be more proactive and get to know these things. How do you encrypt your data? You know, you also have to, that's also part of your digital security. And also you have to be mindful about what you call two-factor authentication, which is basically an added extra layer of security to your accounts. A lot of platforms now allow for that. For example, if you're accessing your Gmail account or any email account for that matter, there's still that extra layer. You access, you log in, and then you need to authorize using your phone. So that's an example of two-factor authentication. So you have to always ensure that you have that added layer of security. That is how you ensure your digital security. When we talk about digital safety, so we've talked about security. The security is the technical things that you do to protect your data. And then the safety component is now the human aspect. As a person, how do you stay safe online? Okay. So the digital security is the technical things that you do to protect your data. And that's the difference that I need you to put it to bear in mind. The digital safety is what you as an individual does to stay safe. So, and that includes knowledge and awareness mostly. Are you aware that there are scammers or scams online? How can you recognize these scams or threats? So for example, you have things like phishing emails, which you all know. Sometimes you've seen an email that comes in with promises of, oh, there's money, or click here, there's an opportunity, and so on. They're basically baits that are leading you to harm. There are websites that seem to look authentic, especially I've seen a number of UN websites that have been adulterated, but you have to have that keenness, that keen eye to actually be able to know what a fake website is or what the original website looks like, so that you protect yourself. How do you also protect your privacy? What personal information do you share online? A lot of times we see people sharing so much. Your kids, their pictures, their names, the schools they go to, your home address, so much of your life. So you have to also be mindful of how much you are exposing to the world. The car you drive, even the number plate of the car you're driving, you basically, or even your workplace, you take a picture at the signpost of your workplace and so on. Sometimes you open yourself up to a lot of attacks, and unknowingly, we do these things unknowingly. We're happy, we want to identify, of course, with certain maybe organizations or so on, but there's also some level of risk that we're opening ourselves to that we need to be mindful of. So if you're the kind of person who is an open book online, I think you need to be mindful and begin to rethink what exactly you're sharing. Because every time you engage or interact in the digital space, you are leaving a digital footprint. you are living a digital shadow, you are living elements of traceability. So much of your life can actually be traced, and people can get right to your door, maybe even inside your house. You need to be careful. When you're on social media, how responsible are you? What kinds of things or content are you posting? How do you treat other people online? Are you the person who is hurling insults at others? Are you engaged in petty bickering online and so on? Because like I said earlier when I spoke, this project Recipe is about recentering the civic internet. And I told you when we are talking about civic, we are looking at an internet that is progressive, not regressive. An internet that fosters dialogue, that also shapes democratic participation. That is the kind of internet that we aspire to have, especially for us in the civil society sector. Just like everyone else in this in this meeting, in this training. How do you update your software, or how often do you keep them updated? Do you regularly install updates for your operating system? Do you update your applications? Because many times you go on your phone and an update appears, or you need to update this. And a lot of times we find it's time wasting, but it is a way of also patching up your security vulnerabilities. There are lots of loopholes that come. Like we said, technology is evolving, it's emerging. And so what was working 2 months ago may not be working today. And that's why you need to actually ensure that your software are up to date. So we've talked about digital security and digital safety and the things that we can do to ensure security and safety. Why is it important? Because the world is driven by technology, like you heard Chris say earlier, and like Dr. Charles said. Technology is shaping everything that we do. How we talk, how we communicate, how we shop, where we go, the content we consume, we are basically being driven by technology. Our personal information is there, our financial data is there. Some people have their entire histories of memories online. So if you do not secure these spaces, then you open yourself up to vulnerability. Vulnerabilities like identity theft. There are people, especially now with generative AI, it is so easy for people to actually steal your personal information and identity and use it to actually do whatever they want, cause you harm or rob you or something like that. You also open why we need digital security and safety, also to avoid data breaches. We don't want hackers to gain access to our personal data. We want to avoid malware infections. We want to avoid online harassment and bullying. That's why we have to be mindful of how we interact in these spaces. And of course, as a CSO, as an individual, there are several ways that you can improve your digital security and safety. Like I said earlier, using strong passwords, enabling two-factor authentication, installing and updating your antivirus software, being mindful about the websites or links that you click on. Don't just click on any link that is sent to you via email or on WhatsApp or Facebook or X or whatever platform you're on. You really have to take a keen eye. You've seen a lot of times, especially I see this a lot in WhatsApp. Oh, there's this amount of money, click here, it's a sure deal. I want this amount of money, you're also going to give, you're going to get money. It is tempting for a lot of people who don't have this information, and perhaps you're broke and you're looking at this as some, a windfall, but the reality is there's no such thing as free money. So never click on any link that promises you something that you didn't work for. That's another way of being tech savvy and smart online. What do you also share online? Think before you post your information. If you're going to drag your entire family or kids online, and one time you're in the eye of a storm, there's a backlash or something, how will you feel if your entire family face is being smeared online? Your kids, your spouse, your parents, or so on. Think about this. And then, of course, also using VPNs, you can also help protect your privacy and security using virtual private networks. So I think that covers the first part, which is the overview of digital security and safety. And now it takes me to the second area that I'm supposed to talk about, which is online threats. We all know what online threats are. Just like again in the physical world, you have physical threats that you're confronted with every day. For example, if you're moving late at night, you know it is already putting yourself at risk. There's so many bad people lurking in the shadows, waiting to attack you, snatch your bag, strangle you, and so on. In the online space, there's also a lot of danger that's lurking in the shadows that we cannot see. So you have threats like malware, you have threats like phishing, you have threats like social engineering, which I'll explain. So when you talk about malware, basically mal and ware, mal from the word malicious, okay? So it's malicious software that's designed to damage your systems. You have viruses, you have worms, you have Trojans, and then you have spyware, which I think is something that we all have to be now more keen about, especially if you you know very well that the activism work that we do brings us at, you know, causes a lot of, we step on so many toes basically when you're doing this activism work. So a lot of times there are people who are using spyware to monitor your calls, your activity online, and basically steal personal information about you. There are people who are eavesdropping on your conversations. Who are you talking to? What are you saying? So you have to be aware of these things. And you will put yourself at risk if you do not do the things we've talked about, how to protect yourself, installing software, updating your apps and so on. There's also ransomware, which is also an example of a malware, which is basically a way of encrypting your files. And then later people start asking you for money or a ransom in order to restore access. So it's important that we educate ourselves about these kinds of threats, how they manifest, and how we can protect ourselves. You all know what phishing attacks are. A lot of times you've also been victims of phishing scams. You go online and someone is tricking you to, you know, reveal some personal information, your password, credit card numbers, bank details, and so on. And sometimes you have emails or messages that you think are from legitimate sources. But a lot of times the devil is always in the detail, like they say. When you read these messages keenly, you're going to see lots of inconsistencies, typos, and so on. And that's already a red flag. So you have to be keen. Don't just respond to any message that you receive. That's also how you avoid falling into some of these traps. Another threat, of course, online is social engineering. Social engineering is quite broad. And you also need to be very keen to understand, to discern that you're actually a victim of social engineering, because there are basically ways that some of the smart people use to manipulate you to also give out sensitive information about yourself. And in turn, you're basically compromising your own security. But what makes it different from phishing and the other forms of attacks is that most times they basically try to manipulate, they play psychological gimmicks on you and make you feel like, oh, maybe someone is in danger or there's some kind of urgency, and then you fall for it, creating some kind of crisis so that you can respond. So because they know that we are emotional beings, if someone says, oh, someone has got an accident, please send money urgently, you're going to fall for it. So you have to also rely on your sixth sense, do a little bit of background checking before you can fall for, you know, some of these scams. Hacking, of course, unauthorized access to your systems. And most times they're there to steal data, to install malware, and just make your life hard by disrupting your normal operations. We have attacks also like denial of service attacks, where you find a website is just flooded with a lot of traffic. And so if you are a legitimate user and you want to access that particular website, you just can't. Every time you try to access it, it is down, but it's just a way, you just know that that particular website or of that organization is under attack. You have online scams, you have cyberbullying. You know, cyberbullying comes in so many forms. Sometimes it's an outright harassment of somebody. Sometimes it involves spreading rumors. Sometimes people go posting embarrassing photos, very intimate details of somebody, you know, even all the sex videos that people see and keep on sharing. Those are all forms of cyberbullying. And again, we need to be mindful as individuals. Are you part of the bullying if you are requesting for, say, an embarrassing video or photo of somebody, if you're requesting for it or sharing it, you're also part of the bullying because you are enabling bad behavior. So you again have to be mindful of your conduct online. Stalking, there's also online stalking is also another threat. And later, of course, like I said, I'll open the space and I would like to hear your experiences and how you've dealt with some of these things. Stalking, you have electronic communication, you have individuals who are just there, someone is constantly harassing you or threatening you, give me money or I'll reveal this about you, I'll blackmail you. Sometimes there are very thin lines between these forms of threats. There are identity thefts, data breaches, and so on. Let's now move to, of course, what we can do, what we consider some best practices when it comes to digital security, you know? But again, some of these things are repeated. Strong and unique passwords. Don't reuse your passwords. After maybe 3 or 4 months, try to create a different password and create different passwords for different accounts. Complicate them. Don't make them very, very easy. A lot of times now, the good thing is now, most times when you're creating a password, they tell you use special characters, use this, and if you have a password that does not meet that checklist, it is always not approved, and you always have to create. And I think that is also how tech Hello, I think I had dropped off a little bit. I hope I'm still audible enough and you are following. We are now on digital security, which I think it's just a repetition of the other things we've talked about. So as an activist or as a CSO, NGO, how do you plan to stay safe? You have to plan, of course, like I said earlier, the kind of work we do makes us step on a lot of toes, and we're constantly on the receiving end of threats and attacks and so on. So if you're an online activist, of course, you need to individually, first of all, assess the kind of risks that are coming your way, that you need to look at the kind of activism you're doing. Who does it make uncomfortable? Who feels threatened or who feels annoyed by your work? And also consider any potential legal issues or repercussions that your activism is creating. Is there any online harassment that is coming your way? Are there physical threats? So that's one way of assessing your risk, understanding the threats. Secondly, you need to analyze how vulnerable you are. What are your current security practices and what are the loopholes that you think an enemy can exploit to actually cause you harm, including your online presence, including how you communicate, including how much personal information you share. Then, of course, after assessing the risk, you need to now find ways of securing your communications, like we already talked about. You need to know how to protect, you need to then protect your identity. So a lot of times we are online and we use our personal identities, just who we are. But if the work you're doing is very, very unsafe, it is still okay to use a pseudonym, okay, in your online activism. You don't have, if I'm 13 in real life and I realize I'm doing some kind of work that really puts me in a very precarious situation, it is okay to use to assume a different identity and also use a different account. So you can also use separate accounts, one for your everyday life and then one for your activism, so that you reduce the kind of risk and also limit the information that can be linked back to you. Still be cautious about how much personal information you share, your address, your phone number, your spouse's names, your kids' names and faces, where they go to school and so on. That also brings you a lot of harm. Secure your devices. Again, we've talked about this already. Use secure browsers. I know tech companies are also doing a lot in terms of updating and making sure their browsers are up to date and more secure. I think right now, the newest browser that is dubbed to be the most secure right now is called Tor, T-O-R. They say, I've not used it, but I've just seen the interface of it online. And when you read about it, it's dubbed to offer some enhanced privacy and security features. I haven't explored it, but it's something I want to. But even the everyday browsers we use, like Chrome, Mozilla, Edge, I think they're also working hard to really ensure that they give us this added layers of security and privacy. Always try to clear your browsing history, check your browsing history, clear them, clear the cookies so that people do not track your work and track the kind of information you're accessing. You also need a support network, okay? Don't die alone. If you're in activism and there's so much, and I tend to see it sometimes, there are people who get a lot of flack online and people just leave them there. No one comes to their rescue to, you don't even stand with them and say a nice comment just to make them feel like they're not alone. So we need to also build the support network among ourselves. Connect with our other activists who can also give you that support. Also, share information and resources like we are doing, safety tips and best practices. How do we protect ourselves? That's just one thing we're doing right now. What emergency plans do you have for your organization? If one of your members or the entire organization is under some kind of threat or attack, do you have a plan for how you can respond to? Do you know where you can go to help you can get help, for example, and what kind of help you can get? You need to also think about these things. I think in this space, the one organization that comes to the rescue of CSOs and human rights defenders is always Defend Defenders. You can always reach out to them. They're always willing to give you support of whatever kind, because they'll have to assess the level of threats that you're going through and, see what appropriate remedial actions can be taken. Also keep documents, keep records of the threats that you get. If there are threats or harassments, if you can get screenshots, emails, messages, so on, keep them in store, because you don't know at what point they'll come in handy. So as you mind about your security online, also mind about your security in the physical space. Who is following you around? Pay attention to your surroundings, Are there people who keep following you, or you see faces emerging wherever you are? When you're traveling, also let the people around you know what your travel itinerary looks like, the places you're going, and who you're moving with. Also, it's good to have a personal safety plan in place, in as much as if things really go south completely, you'll still get help, but individually you need to also find a way of staying safe. And then you also we need security trainings also as organizations. I don't know how many of you have actually had security audits done, whether it's digital security audits or physical security audits. I know sometimes resources are quite limiting, but these are things that are important to be prioritized. There's also always legal help available, whether it's legal aid, there's Legal Aid Service Providers Network, which is a CSO that you can always find support through. There's also CCG, can also help you connect you to other people in these spaces who can help you to get legal support if you're having some of these legal threats in relation to your activism work. Last but not least, which is something we really, really take for granted, is prioritizing our well-being. The kind of work we do leaves us really, really drained. Sometimes it is okay to take a break, okay? It is okay to take a break and just focus on your mental health and your emotional well-being. And then always have a support system that you can fall back to or fall back on. whether that's friends, family, and so on. Take care of yourself. That's very, very important. Activism is stressful. Whether you're doing it online or offline, it is work that drains you. It is work that gets to you emotionally and psychologically, and you need to stay safe. You need to stay well so that you can live to fight another day. I will end my presentation here, and I'll open the floor now for sharing questions, comments, any peer-to-peer learning that we can get here. You're all welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Judith, for taking us through really, for expounding very, very, very important issues in the digital security and safety. Of course, you know, we are in a society that we are so immune to digital security and safety. We are threats. Thank you for taking us through all the online threats that we envisage and the different types of online threats that people go through, and then also how the best practices to ensure digital security both online and offline, and then also safety planning for online activists. And all of us have to be ambassadors in advocacy for our digital rights. It's our collective responsibility to ensure that all of us benefit from all the digital rights. So just like she has said, it's now time for all of anybody who has anything to add on, or if there's an area that we didn't understand well, the platform is now open. You can just mute and submit.
Simon, I see Ivan Masawi's hand is up. Ivan, you can go first.
Yes, thank you very much, Judith, for your presentation. Personally, I've learned a lot about advanced security and safe practices on using digital platforms, especially on navigating the space. Outstanding one is where you stressed on personalization and identity. But now, I think I have a question that maybe will touch the sovereignty of the digital space itself. Because lately we had, I think previously we had a discussion where we looked at artificial intelligence also coming up into the question, but it does aid in breaching digital sovereignty, that some of these apps even have capacity to link your identity or comparison to someone else. That if they are not tailored to that sovereignty of maybe policy-wise, like maybe China has done to limit certain apps only to their local values and security frameworks for management. For our case here, apart from I think the good practices of safety that you have really put clearly to us, I find it that I think we are still struggling given the ability to use platforms that are not okay, that don't guarantee you the issue of safety, even when you try to comply because of their sovereignty. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ivan. Judith, try back online, shared some internet challenges.
Simon, I'm back. I'm back. I missed some of the things Ivan said, but I picked it up later when he was talking about the breach of digital sovereignty and the need to have policies like China has done, context-relevant policies that also protect the values of a particular community or country. I think I had that, and that's an important observation.
Yeah, that is it. Thank you, Mr. Ivan, for your submission in that regard. Is there another hand that you can bring forward? Anyone else who wants to submit kindly within 10 seconds, because we are behind time. Yeah, I see Lydia, kindly unmute and submit.
Okay, it's not a question, but I just want to commend the previous speaker that she has been lively and we have gotten a lot of information in a short period of time. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for appreciating the submission of the previous presenter. Is there another hand that anyone who feels? Yes, Wakoli. I see Wakoli Michael. Within 5 seconds, because we are behind time. Unmute and submit.
Yes, thanks, Simon and Madam Edith and the last two presenters. I do appreciate all what you have delivered to us today. But I just had concerns to put right as towards we local people or people from the village, you know, we are always faced with the challenge of how to maybe get to data safety, privacy, our freedoms of expression online and offline. But then few people like us maybe can have an idea to pass through to vast community members. But the problem or challenge we get is the blockage or the online or the agencies at times which put forward maybe to have some restrictions on us, because you are saying, for example, as an activist, maybe you have got certain information about a corrupted video, maybe from a district or a town council. You are trying to use your phone and maybe put out this kind of person, but you get threats and there's no way you can go and report the things. When you go and report there, they turn against you. So as some of us as online activists, we get a lot of challenges, and we don't know as Center for Constitutional Governance. I don't know what plans you have for local activists like us to clearly stand up and
yes, Judith. I outline this, Judith. This question is really directed to you. That the challenges at the grassroots, the people who are advocating for instance, in case there is issues of corruption, they want to report, but they feel marginalized. As a CCG, how do you help such categories of people?
Okay. Thank you, Michael. And I think that's a dilemma that a lot of people have, and it's not just only organizations at the grassroots. Even at the national level, there are people who have been forced into self-censorship because they fear, like I was saying, the kind of work we do brings us a lot of enemies. Not many people want the truth told, especially when the truth puts them in very bad light. That said, the law, of course, provides and protects your freedom, though we also understand that the civic space is shrinking a lot. And one way of doing that is by curtailing some of these freedoms, by also coming up with a lot of restrictive laws. But like I said earlier, you can always have other ways of protecting yourself, because again, no one wants you harmed, okay? You need to do activism, but we also don't want you harmed. You also have to be mindful about your own well-being as an individual. If you're going online, for example, yes, like I said, you can create an account that is not linked to you. You can create a pseudo account and still talk about these things. However, having said that, it's also important to know that the information you have is actually accurate, that there's enough evidence to the effect that Mr. A or Mr. X is actually involved in wrongdoing, and this is the evidence. Okay, if that evidence is there, and also have you made attempts to also follow, say, legal channels of maybe filing a report in police? Because as an activist, or as a grassroots organization, I don't know if accountability is one of the kinds of work that you do. If it is, then how do you as an organization or in your program work to ensure accountability? Are you working with the local leaders to call these people out? Is there no action that has been taken to actually have redress? So you understand the dynamics that you're dealing with best, but your safety matters. And it is you to, I think you need to really be discerning of what to share, when to share, and how to share it. But you still have to also use all these other platforms, because there's also a danger of, there's also politics that we have to also be alive. That's a reality that we have to be alive to. I may not like a particular person. I may work with Simon and I don't like Simon. And then I begin to say bad things about Simon, and also maybe even fabricate things and share it with someone so that they can share it with the world, because I have other ulterior motives. So we also have to understand the dynamics within which we operate and also the people that we work with. However, where there's hard evidence that someone is actually involved in wrongdoing, I think it is your moral duty to call that person out, whether it's through social media or through following legal channels. I think the best would still be to follow the legal channels. And then when everything else has failed, I think you can still do your activism work. But if you feel the threat is directed at you, there are always, like I've told you, there are accounts you can use actually to, amplify certain messages. But also don't make it sometimes look like, you're also targeting maybe a particular individual, and unless you really, really have all the facts that indeed, because we don't want a situation where people turn around and say, oh, that is slander or defamation and so on, because perhaps you're running with half-baked information. So you also have to be mindful. We have to do activism, but also not breaching people's privacies, and also making sure it is the truth and nothing but the truth that we are running with.
Yes, thank you very much, Judith. Just like said, that whereas we need to advocate for our rights and see different issues online, we should also be mindful of the environment that we do our advocacy from. And given the insecurity that we are experiencing in Uganda, we really devise mechanisms to ensure that, yes, whereas we advocate for our rights, we should be paying attention to our safety. Yeah, this training is supposed to end in 4 minutes. If there's no another hand from anybody to add anything, allow me to bring Food. Food is our partner from Oxfam to give his concluding remarks and close the day. Food, are you there? And will give us
Yes. Simon, and I think if anyone can confirm whether I'm loud enough, that would be great.
Yes, you're loud enough. On my end, I can hear you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. From the concluding session with Judith, it's quite interesting. I've just been remembering something. I think it was a book which is called Firewalls Don't Stop Dragons. So Judith, as you are talking about firewalls, maybe there is someone out there who has a dragon that can burn your firewalls down. But it's quite interesting. I've had concerns from some of the participants talking about how pessimistic they are about technologies. But I have to tell you one thing, that technologies, quite many, they're emerging, many are coming, artificial intelligence that has so many tools, some of which the participants and the trainers are familiar with. I've just also been reading something this morning from the Boston Consulting Group, them saying that they are proposing for artificial intelligence to be given co-worker status. And that is quite interesting because many of the workers in many employment spaces are utilizing artificial intelligence tools. And companies have realized that their workers have become more efficient, more effective, and they're getting more gains. We have so many technological advancements, robotics. I think Jasper is on this call, Jasper and Yamkachi, who's an innovator who are developing robots. But questions on rights of the users come into play. How these robots interacting with society, video gaming. Some of the, I don't know whether we have video gamers here, who might be playing online games, the multiplayer or online gamers, who they normally call the MOGs, So you realize that a lot of rights come into play, the use of avatars. I've just been navigating Zoom here and I saw that I can use an avatar. But what are those rights that come into that? We have so many emerging technologies, virtual reality, electric vehicle technology, carbon credits, data protection, virtual venture capital, and crypto mining. We have issues that are rising on technology and businesses, startups, fintech. So all of these issues are contributing to how we are thriving as a society, but very relevantly to what we are talking about today on the Recipe project, recentering the civic internet through partner engagement. We are mainly looking at digital rights in our context and how we can survive in a digital age where online rights are like the air we breathe, an air that is often invisible yet very vital to our freedom. And we should all work towards protecting these rights. And some of the initiatives that we are taking as CCG and Oxfam under the funding of the European Union is such initiatives to, bring different players in our communities and beyond to have discussions on issues of digital rights. And I understand today we're also talking about advocacy. So these are very important for us in our context because they help to create an environment that is secure, that is inclusive, and governable for everyone. And this is the goal that we all have. So I want to conclude by thanking all participants who have taken part of this training. I want to congratulate and also thank so much the trainers for today who have taken us through these processes. I've listened in from the start of it all, and I must say thank you to all the trainers who have done their research and delivered on all the key topics that we were talking about today. So thank you so much. And yeah, I don't think there are any other concerns from the participants. So thank you, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hood, for sparing time, and thank you very much for everyone for sparing time to be part of this conversation. And for our facilitators, thank you for the elaborate explanation on key issues that affect us in the digital world. And I would like to implore all of us to be ambassadors as we move out there. Let not the conversation just remain here. We need to replicate what we have shared here. And therefore, after this discussion is I'm going to form the WhatsApp group so that it can be a working group for all of us to further the conversation. Have a blessed week.
Hello, everyone. Before you drop off, kindly I'm reminding everyone to fill in the form. I'll give a few minutes for those who have not yet filled in the form that was shared by Rita and Simon. Please fill this form in the remaining few minutes. I'll give it like 5 minutes and I close. Those who have finished registering, you're free to leave the call. Thank you so much. Simon, maybe you can post the link again in the chat box for people who might have missed it. Please share the link again for everyone to sign. Yes, Simon has shared that link again. Please, those who have not yet registered with us, kindly do. Thank you. Feel free to leave the call if you have given us your details.
Hello, Chris speaking here. I
Yes.
haven't received the.
Yes, Chris.
I did not receive the form. Did you send it on WhatsApp or mail?
No, it's on chat, but still I can inbox you if you are having trouble accessing it. I can inbox you.
Please inbox because I'm a village champion. So
Yeah, I understand. Actually, that people also who have challenges accessing it here on the chat. So I'm going to follow up and find out. Okay.
Okay.
You inbox
Any
me,
other person having issues with the form? Any other person having issues with the form? If you've not yet seen the form, kindly raise this concern before I close. I hope those that are still online, you're trying to fill in that form. Yeah, the last message in the chat box, the link that Simon has shared is where the form is. Kindly tap on the link. It will take you direct to fill in your names and a few details, then you submit. I see more 14 people on the call. I don't know if you're filling in or you're having issues filling in that form. But if you've submitted the form, you're free to leave the call. All right, I'm closing in the next 1 minute. Please note that after I close, you won't be able to fill the form. That's why I encourage
yes, I
all
was
of
able
us
to get. Hope you.
You got the form?
Yeah, I was able to get the form. I think I've submitted.
All right.
This is
Thank
Chris.
you, Christopher.
Okay.
Any other person having issues filling the form? All right, I hope we are all good to go. So I'm going to close this. Simon, are you saying something?
No, I'm done.
Right. Thank you all for joining in and have a pleasant day.